Welcome to the Nerdstalgic Podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic Podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're all good, as per usual. Before we get into today's topic, I want to do a bit of housekeeping, because I love to keep my house clean. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod to be kept up to date on everything and anything that I am doing. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have subscribed already, ring that notification bell so you'll be notified of whenever I release an episode every single Sunday. So, here we are, back again for another special. It's Doctor Who Day. I'm really excited. Obviously, I'm recording this on Saturday morning, so obviously I haven't seen the episode yet. It comes out later tonight, but I'm really excited. For anybody who has jumped in out of the blue, and this is the first episode of mine that you're listening to, a quick reintroduction to what I'm doing here in terms of the Doctor Who specials. So, for the next 3 weeks, or shall we say 2 weeks from now, I'll be covering all of the Doctor Who specials. Last week I did the Star Beast, which was the first one, which is the sort of reintroduction as David Tennant, as the 14th Doctor, and Catherine Tate coming back as Donna Noble, and we got to meet Beep the Meep, and that was a fantastic episode, and it actually has done really well. So for everybody who's listened to it and shared it on Twitter and retweeted and all that jazz, thank you. If you haven't listened to the episode and you're jumping into here, go back and listen to that one first, and then come back here. But yeah, so I'll be covering them all. So today I'm going to do the Wild Blue Yonder, which, as I've said, we know nothing about this episode. We know absolutely nothing. So I can't even start to really begin to speculate or say we're going to see this person, we're going to see that person, we're going to see this creature, that creature. We don't know nothing. All we really know is that there's a little robot, and we only know that because the little robot has been shown on little snippets of videos on TikTok. And in the poster for this episode, there's a little robot in the background. I think his name is Jimbo or something like that. I remember somewhere seeing that. I don't know, so don't quote me on that at the moment. We'll find out later tonight. But that's it. That's all we really know. It's the only real character we know. We don't know who's voicing the character, if the character's good, if the character's evil. Nothing, So what I thought we would do, because we know nothing about this episode, I'm going to talk about the Star Beast a little bit. And then at the end, we're going to talk about a bit of speculation, just to kind of give a bit more of an update and how the Star Beast was received. So first of all, I want to look at the viewership for the Star Beast episode. So go over here to my document. Let's have a look, scroll down. So, according to Lizzo Mizaba at the BBC, Doctor Who The Star Beast had an overnight audience of 5.8 million TV viewers on BBC One. That was people who watched it live on the night. Strictly won the night with 7.67 million, and I'm a Celebrity got 4.83 million. The full official rating, which factors in viewers who have watched the episode via BBC iPlayer over the next week, will be released this week. I couldn't find it as I was looking, so I don't know if it's been released yet, which is expected to see significant rises in the initial figures. Doctor Who Unleashed was watched by 373,100 viewers on BBC Three. Most watched non-sports programmes on digital channels, only beaten by 2 Premier League matches, which was the Manchester United and Liverpool, blah, 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 blah. I'm not into football. Basically, it got second of the most viewership and Strictly won. Now, to be honest, that doesn't surprise me, mostly because of two main big factors. I'm going to start with Strictly. The main factor with Strictly is the fact of, no offence to anybody who watches it or anybody's grandparents who watch it, but it's mostly for old people. It's for people who watch it religiously every year, like my nan, who will settle down for the night, especially now it's getting colder, to watch Strictly. they've got an older audience that are like religiously in tune to like, yeah, we've got to be in the house at this time to watch this and this and this. So it makes sense that you were going to see more viewership there. Point number two. Love or hate Jodie Whittaker's run on Chris Chibnall's run as the Doctor, but a lot of people have fallen off the Doctor Who bandwagon. You know, I love Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, didn't like Chris Chibnall's writing, so I've kind of, even though I wasn't a big fan, and I didn't always watch it live. I would always catch up on it because I was never that sort of invested. Now, you taking that as well as then adding the fact of yes, we have got David Tennant back, and yes, we've got Donna Noble back, we've got the favourites back. For a lot of fans, for a lot of people, it's not enough. For some people, they need to word of mouth, and from a lot of people I've spoken to, they were either working because obviously it started at 6:30 for some unknown reason. Started at 6:30 on a Saturday. A lot of people I know was at work, so they couldn't watch it live, so they had to watch it on catch up. And again, a lot of people I know who were Doctor Who fans who went off it would rather wait until the episode came out, listen to people's thoughts and feelings, and then decided to watch it. So we haven't, even though we've got the views for what happened on the night, I guess if we look at the figures for the episode, how it sort of received on BBC iPlayer and people rewatching it, I'm sure that viewership would be a lot higher. But to be honest, getting a 5.8 million viewership opening night is not bad. But then again, like I said, it's going to draw people in, and I feel like this episode of Wild Blue Yonder, now that we've got back into that idea of Doctor Who, and that the Star Beast did really, really well and had a lot of people talking about it, that the viewership will be higher for this episode. So I just wanted to mention that because I saw it going around on the internet, people saying, oh, it didn't even beat Strictly. And I just wanted to kind of cover it as to my thoughts and feelings on that, and kind of give an idea of why I think that really doesn't matter. And that's like I said, we haven't got the data. I don't have the data for BBC, like it was on Disney Plus, so we don't know how well it did on Disney Plus. Well, I couldn't find it. But it was also shown on Disney Plus around the world in America, so maybe the viewership was really good there. So you've got to factor in all those things as well. I could only get the BBC results, but still, it did really, really well for coming back and starting new and starting fresh. Moving on, so I've now watched the Star Beast 3 times. I watched it live, obviously, and then I watched the video commentary the next day. For anybody who didn't watch the video commentary, it was basically David Tennant, Phil Coulson, and Vicky DeLoe. They sat down together and they rewatched the episode and they gave their commentary on it. It was really, really fascinating. A lot of behind the scenes stuff. I love that kind of stuff. I've said it many, many times before on the podcast. Like special features on DVDs and Blu-rays, they were made for people like me. I just love to sit down and watch and see the behind the scenes of how films and shows are made. So I absolutely love this. So as well with the live and the video commentary, I watched it again before, just for fun, for the next before the next episode, as well as the Unleashed episode as well, because again I love all the behind the scenes stuff. The Unleashed was really, really good. Again, I still feel like it's a stupid name of calling it Unleashed. Really, they should just carried on Doctor Who Confidential because that sounds so much better than Doctor Who Unleashed. It just sounds a bit gimmicky, but I'm glad to have some sort of confidential, part of Doctor Who back because it was really missing. Like we haven't seen it for a very, very long time, so I'm glad they brought that back. But yeah, I've seen the Star Beast a few times now, and I love it. I really, really enjoy it. And from watching it over and over again, and watching the commentary and watching the behind the scenes stuff, you can tell how much love and passion went into it by everybody involved. And I'm starting to notice little bits, details here and there. Which moves me on to my next thing that I'm going to say is that I have a hypothesis. Now, I broke down the idea of what a hypothesis was, the difference between a hypothesis and a theory. I learned this recently because I've been reading a lot of science books, which is unrelated to the podcast. I just do it in my free time because I'm a nerd. But I've been reading a lot of science books. And I learned the difference between what a hypothesis was and a theory was, and I made a little bit of a joke about it in my last episode, but I want to clear it up here. Now, the difference between a hypothesis and a theory, in scientific reasoning, A hypothesis is constructed before any applicable research has been done. A theory, on the other hand, is supported by evidence. It's a principle formed as an attempt to explain things that already have been or had sustainable by data. Basically, a hypothesis is a thought, is just like I think the sun is red because it's red. And then a theory is, well, from looking at the research, looking at the data, we can say that that is true because the sun is red because of light waves, and we only perceive it to be red, or we only perceive it to be orange or yellow, whatever you want to call it, because of the Earth's atmosphere and the magnetic poles and X, Y, and Z. And that's a difference. So I just wanted to sort of clear that up. Yeah. But anyway, getting back to Doctor Who, my hypothesis is about the message by the Meep, the cryptic message that the Beep leaves it. And I'm going to quote from the actual episode. This is what Meep says. I, creature with two hearts, is such a rare thing. Just wait till I tell the boss. Now, I thought this was more potentially a foreshadowing to the toy maker, because a lot of people have done, because we know the toy maker is going to be coming into it, and we know the toy maker has a fascination and a grudge against the Doctor. So I thought that potentially when he says the boss, I and a lot of people thought the toy maker. But there was a line in the video commentary that saw David Tennant ask Phil Coulson, about this cryptic message. Now, I'm going to paraphrase a bit here, but it was among the lines of David. So, do you know what the message means? Phil. Yes, we do. David. I don't. Phil. Well, you will find out with the fans. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing there. That wasn't like completely accurate, but that was among sort of the lines of what they said. Now, this makes me think that we will see Beep the Meep again. Obviously, we have to see Meep again. There's no way they can, because they actually made the suit. What I love about the sort of Unleashed, as well as watching the commentary, was the fact that if you learned that Beep the Meep wasn't CGI, Beep was an actual woman in a suit, and it moved, and its eyes moved, and obviously it just shows how much of a budget they have, but also shows how much special effects have come along. And then they did like CGI stuff for the mouth, and we did CGI stuff as well. But they did a lot of things practical here. But obviously you wouldn't put that much work into a Beep the Meep costume if we're not going to see Meep again. So of course we're going to see Meep again. But also this boss, I don't think it's the toy maker. I don't know who it is, but I don't think it's a toy maker. But I think we will see who this boss is in Shutigawa's 15th Doctor. I think it will be a him problem. I don't think it will be anything to do with the 14th Doctor. I don't think we'll get any more answers to this in any of the specials. I think generally Beep is going to pop up again, or the Master, or not the Master, but Beep's boss, or Beep and the boss, whoever this boss is, will appear together in Shuti's run. So we will see Beep again, because again, it can't be anything to do with the specials, because if it was, David would know, because David has now finished recording all of his special stuff that he has to do for the 14th Doctor. He's done, unless it's like a surprise thing that we don't know about. He's done all his shooting for everything that he has to do for the 14th Doctor now. And he said he doesn't know what that cryptic line is, and for Phil to say to him, "Oh, you'll find out with the rest of the fans," that tells me that we're not going to get an answer to that, and we're going to see it in Shuti's run. That's my hypothesis. We don't know. It's just a hypothesis, but we will find out. Who could it be? It could generally be anybody. It could be the Master. They could be in the Master back. It could be it could be the Daleks. It could be, obviously, they could bring back Davros. Now saying to the Daleks, because again, like you said, a creature with two hearts is a very rare thing. It could be a multitude of stuff. It could be a character that we haven't even seen in live action. It could be a character from Big Finish. It could be a character from the comics, because as we've seen with Beep, that is a possibility now, and we know that Russell actually likes the idea and wants to pursue that idea of bringing back characters from other forms of media. So it could literally be anybody, and this is what excites me of going forwards with Doctor Who, is that we have no idea at all of what is coming, and I love that. I love not knowing. I know a lot of people love all the answers, but when it comes to things like this, and comes to things that I love, sometimes not knowing is more fun than knowing, because then the surprise is even more sweeter. But again, in my opinion, some people disagree. Now, moving on to actually my thoughts on today's episode. I just want to start off by saying that there have been some clips out there of this episode already that have been released through obviously BBC iPlayer as well as the BBC Doctor Who TikTok. I haven't seen any of them. I haven't seen any of the clips. I haven't seen any of the moments. I've just seen stills of these moments, and I'm not going to mention any of them here because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So I don't know. So I'm not going to mention anything that was shown in them because I don't want to see them. Because, like I said, I want to be surprised, and I don't want any. I don't want to see anything. The less I know about this episode, or the more cryptic this episode stays until I actually see it, the better for me. So, I'm going to talk about what we do know, what we all publicly know, what has been mentioned, and what we have seen and sort of referenced in Doctor Who magazine and so on and so forth. So, what we know is that the HADS, the Hostile Action Displacement System of the TARDIS, has now has turned itself back on, and now leaving the Doctor and Donna stranded on this ship or this TARDIS or whatever. What this means, who knows? But there's also a quote from Russell T Davies in Doctor Who magazine, and I quote, "This was a chance to see where the Doctor and Donna have been and what they're like in extreme circumstances." That worries me because we have seen sort of somewhat parts in the trailer leading up to 60th anniversary of the Doctor screaming, going ah moments, and we've already seen him in the Star Beast going, "Why did it have to be this?" And why he was winter soldiering Donna, which again I never mentioned that in my review, but I just love that moment where watching it back, I'm just seeing that Donna had a Winter Soldier moment where he was doing the phrases and sort of recalibrating her, turning her back on, shall we say, which I thought that was fantastic. But the worry is extreme circumstances. What are those extreme circumstances? I, again, have a theory, because you get a lot of people online saying that we're on another TARDIS. I don't think so. I don't think we're on another TARDIS. I think we're on a ship. Whose ship? What ship? Again, don't know. But my hypothesis, because it's not a theory, my hypothesis is that if we're going to see a chance to see where the Doctor and Donna have been and what they're like in extreme circumstances, we're going to see a lot of it's going to be, I feel there's going to be heartache. There's going to be a moment in this episode, I feel, that is really going to put them to the test to see not just how the Doctor has evolved, because like as we've mentioned before, the 14th Doctor might have the 10th Doctor's face, but he's also got the memories and emotions of Matt Smith, Pete Capaldi, and Jodie Whittaker. We already seen a little bit of that in the Starbase episode, how he's saying things and doing things that the 10th Doctor wouldn't do or wouldn't have said, because again, as we all know, we all love the 10th Doctor, but he was a very closed off Doctor. He never really emoted anything. He tended to just like pretend like it didn't exist and move on. And then obviously, as we saw with the Doctors moving on, they got a lot more emotive, shall we say. So it'd be interesting to see not just where the Doctor has come in terms of the emotions and memories and experiences, but also how Doctors sort of changed over these past 15 years, going 15 years of not knowing anything to now having the memory back and having to deal with that. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of confrontation between them both, where they're going to be like arguing of like, I know you had to want my memory, but you left me. And again, we all know why, and I guess she would know why, but yeah, it's all speculation at the moment. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of heartache in this one. I feel like there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of moments where the Doctor and Donna have to deal with certain aspects, possibly hallucinations, possibly a lot of moments where they've got to really dig deep into who they are now and what that means for them and means for their relationship. And yeah, again, I'm only going off a quote. I don't know. And that again, that's the joy. I love not knowing. I really, really do. It does make good content for when you're recording for a podcast, but not knowing is quite fun. But being on a TARDIS, I don't think so. I think we're on a derelict ship. Possibly, maybe. Who knows? Hypothetically. But I have a theory of who I think I would love to see in this episode, or who I think is not just a threat that's bad enough for the TARDIS to run away, but also a threat that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and somebody who I feel would be good to add into here, because into not just Doctor Who in general, but would be a good one to throw into this episode. I want to bring back Omega. Now, if you are a modern Doctor Who fan, you won't know who that is. I've only heard certain things about Omega. I don't know a lot about him. My only real proper experience him recently is that I recently watched the Three Doctors story for the first time, and I feel Omega would be a great fit because of how dangerous he is, and obviously what that means for Omega. I'm going to read a bit off the wiki to kind of give you an idea of who Omega is. So, Omega was born as Pylax, also known as the Engineer, and Omegagon, and worshipped as Om was a great intergalactic engineer and co-founder of Time Lord Society, but centuries of loneliness and isolation bent his mind so that he threatened the entire universe. He was the only person ever to live within the antimatter universe, which he subconsciously ruled over while he used his will to enable him to construct a landscape with the permission of the antimatter creature. However, his existence in this realm robbed him of his body and left only his conscious will intact. A realization that twisted him into murderous insanity aimed towards the Time Lords, who he blamed for abandoning him to his fate. Omega was one of the most significant figures in Gallifreyan history. He appeared in the Rutex, as later scholars on Gallifrey would call them, alongside Rassilon and the Other. So Omega is a very dangerous being. He does appear a few more times in Classic Who. Like I said, I've recently learnt about him. But again, that whole idea that he's in antimatter space and that he can create constructs and landscapes to his will. Who's to say that this ship isn't a ship? It's part of antimatter space. And that he's making hallucinations and he can create whatever he wants as kind of a way to get back at the Doctor and to get back at the Time Lords. Again, I don't know if they would do this, because even though I feel like he would be a good fit and it would make sense in terms of bringing in a new villain and having a monster creature villain that the TARDIS would go, screw this stuff, I'm getting out of here, to make the TARDIS run away. Omega would be a good fit, and again, we haven't seen Omega in a very, very long time since the classic run of Doctor Who. But, and this is a big but, would they bring back such an awesome, powerful old villain back, only to then bring in the Toy Maker in the next episode? Would they do that? Because I feel it would, if they did, it might undermine the Toy Maker's introduction. Because you have somebody like Omega who is ever so powerful, can basically do anything. He is a huge threat to the Time Lords and the Doctor. He is a huge, great villain. And then to be like, oh, we've saved the day, beat him. Now we've got the Toy Maker, who is also ever powerful, ever sort of omnipresent and that sort of thing. He can do anything. He can create universe. He can create little pocket dimensions and that sort of thing. Kind of the same as Omega. Would that undermine the Toy Maker? Again, I think so. I think it would. So even though I think Omega would be a good fit, and I'd love to see Omega, I don't think we're going to get Omega in this episode. But who knows? That's the joys of it. But yeah, I do think it would undermine the Toy Maker if they brought Omega in. But yeah, so my overall thought and my overall idea of this episode is I don't know. But like I said, I'm excited with not knowing. I really, really am. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just happy to see Doctor Who back, really. So yeah, so that's everything I have to say about the Star Beast, catching up on there, as well as talking about a little bit about what this episode might hold and what it might mention. And who might show up and what might show up. We won't know until tonight. So I'm going to go and go about my day. And then tonight, I'm going to sit and watch Wild Blue Yonder. And then what you'll hear next will be my thoughts and feelings of that. Will I be crying? Will I be happy? Will I be sad? Will I be mad? Will I be angry? Will I love it? Will I hate it? All these questions are up in the air right now. But all I know is that Wild Blue Yonder is set to be something mad, crazy, and potentially heartbreakingly wonderful. Who knows? But what I do know is that there'll be a review next. So let's get into it, shall we? Right, so before we begin, just a wee tad bit of disclosure. As I did with Star Beast, as soon as I finished the episode, I jumped straight on the mic and I started recording. With this episode, not so much. What I did do instead, and I will explain as to why, as soon as the episode finished, I jumped straight onto BBC Three and I listened and watched the Doctor Who Unleashed. The simple reason for that is because I have no idea what I just watched. I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed this episode, right? So let's get out of the way. This episode, it was nuts. It was bonkers. It was definitely what they were said it was. What Russell T Davies and David Tennant were both on the point of like, yeah, this is nothing that they've ever done before. It was very different, very strange, still Doctor Who, but it was out of the wheelhouse of what I've seen in Doctor Who before. Granted, I haven't seen all the classic episodes, but I doubt even the classic episodes has got as far as this. But I really, really enjoyed it. It really was a moment between the Doctor and Dinah. It was a real centric them story. It was just them, and I'll try my best to get into explaining what I mean. It was literally just them. There was no other actors. It was just David and Catherine this whole time, and it was fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. But I have no idea what I watched because it's so out of the wheelhouse of what they've done before. And I was thinking after while I was watching sort of the Unleashed, because obviously the reason I watched Unleashed was because I wanted to give myself a bit more clarity of not just behind the scenes, but what the thinking was behind this episode. Unleashed, I love it so far, or shall we say I'm interested in it so far, because we only had 2 episodes of it so far. But this episode didn't help at all because it didn't really answer any questions, really. And I'm starting to think now that, again, this is my first impressions, maybe this sort of opinion will change from repeat viewings, which I will watch this more, and I'll watch the video commentary tomorrow on Sunday. But I feel like this is one of them sort of episodes that just leaves up in the air. It leaves you to question everything. It doesn't need to have an answer because everybody's theory, everybody's hypothesis, everybody's opinion is the correct one because it's that sort of episode. Um, it's yeah, it's one of those where I was thinking, well, should I talk about spoilers? But I feel like I'm going to have to talk about spoilers because otherwise, um, there's like I would imagine if you listen to this, you probably okay, yeah. If you're listening to this now, more than likely you've watched the episode, and I don't have to worry about spoiling anything. So I'm going to talk about spoilers because I'm just going to have to because it makes no sense. Um, because I don't know if anybody's ever watched this movie. I love it, but it's not one that many people have watched. If anybody watched the sort of movie Event Horizon, it's a fantastic film with Sam Neill, and basically the premise behind that is that a ship that had went missing a long, long time ago after trying to do a jumps, I think it was a slip space jump from one part of the from I think they tried to do it from Earth to Jupiter, and then it went missing, and then it appeared in Jupiter's orbit about 3 to 5 years later. I think that's what it was. I can't really remember the premise, but it's a great movie. It's just been a long time since I've watched it. Anyway, from watching that movie, as the story progresses on, we realise that when this crew that's been sent out to this ship find the event horizon, get there, all the crew's missing, nobody's there. There's no sign of a struggle. There's no sign of anybody. There's no dead bodies. There's nothing. It's literally a dead ship that just appeared in orbit around Jupiter out of nowhere. And then, as the story goes on, we realise that the ship worked. It did what it was meant to do. It jumped from one spot place to another. The problem is where it jumped to well, in the movie, where it jumps to is hell. It jumps to hell, and then when it comes back, we realize you slowly start to realize that it didn't come back on its own, and that the ship is now cursed. Again, it's a fantastic movie. It's very gory, very brutal. It's yeah, it's like Hellraiser in space. Best way to explain it. The reason I bring up that is because this movie reminded me, like you see a big corridor that the Doctor and Donna walk down, and it's exactly the sort of almost exactly the same corridor that we see in Event Horizon. Um, and a lot of the things that happen in this, you get tones of Alien and Aliens, even Alien Free to a point. You even get sort of more Event Horizon. You get there's so many questions, and there's many times where the Doctor's asking himself questions, and you do get answers to the questions that the Doctor and yourself as a viewer are asking of like, what? Why is this ship abandoned? Where is this ship? Who is the villain? Why is everything going so slow? Why is it abandoned? X, Y, and Z. Obviously, I won't say those things, even though I guess I can because I'm talking about spoilers. But I'll keep those, to the episode. But even though we get answers to them, still very much the fact of this is, I don't know. I like it because it's different. I love things that are different. I like things that are not trudging the same. Like, all fairness, Rusty Davies could have just went on the classic romp and just be like, "Hey, here we go. Here's a classical figure and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh, I would have been happy with it." But for them to be like, we're going to push the button and do something different, and to go really sort of Event Horizon just without the blood and gore, um, yeah, really, really good choice as well. And then we actually meet the villains, and it's strange. It's real in a way. Yeah, it is kind of body horror because you get them, and then it starts to go cold, and the Doctor and Donna, they're split apart. What they're in different sides of the ship, um, and Donna thinks she's talking to the Doctor, and you don't think of it at first. It's very much like The Thing. Yeah, that's the film I was thinking of. Event Horizon meets The Thing. I never thought I needed those two sort of films to cross over, but now I've seen it here in Doctor Who. I want somebody to make an Event Horizon cross The Thing, because you don't think anything bad at first when sort of the Doctor walks in and sits down. You think, oh well, the Doctor's come in. He's coming to talk to Donna. And then we get the same moment where with the Doctor's off in the other side of the compartment, and Donna walks in, and then you're like, hold on a second, that's not Donna, because Donna's over there talking to the Doctor. What is going on? And for the whole thing, it's like, what? I felt like I was the Doctor. No, the Doctor's, like, especially David Tennant, is very famous for going, what? I was like, what? How? Who? What? Why? And you have these nice moments, even though it's not the Doctor or it's not the Donna that Doctor or Donna is talking to. I know it's going to get confusing. Even though it's not the right person they think that they're talking to, it's still nice to have them open up where the Doctor opens up to Donna, Donna opens up to the Doctor. And we learn more about what they've been through in the past 15 years. Donna mentions the fact of when she was the Doctor, Donna, she sort of incorporated all of the Doctor's current memories from the past, not just up to where she last met him, but everything that happened afterwards with Matt, Peter, and Jodie. And that's all the events, all the companions, all the highs, the lows, the happiness, the sadness. And then we got down to Flux, which they brought Flux back, which they did mention the Flux in the Star Beast. And Rusty Davies did say that they were going to mention the Flux. And fair play to them, because I'm more than happy to kind of move on from the Flux, pretend it didn't happen. But fair play to Russell, he's incorporated it, he's taken it on. But that for me leaves a lot of questions, because the whole point of the Flux, from what I can remember, because I'll be honest, I zoned out a lot through the Flux. But at the end of the Flux, half the universe was destroyed and changed, right? And I'm starting to get a sense that this 60th anniversary are part of the effects, like how can I explain it? That the universe currently in the 60th anniversary is currently, lack of a better word, in flux, right? And that anything in anything is possible, and that whatever is changed now with the 14th Doctor will stay forever with the 15th Doctor. For example, there's a line in this movie, in the show, where the Doctor, basically, he's got the two villains, the two shapeshifters, they're Doctor and Donna. And he gets some salt. He puts salt down like a line right in front of them. He says, there's a story that vampires and demons and ghosts and spirits and all kinds of nasty things can't cross this line of salt, because if they do, something bad will happen to them, this sort of thing, and they have to count every single piece of salt before they can cross. And they're like, well, that's super. And the other doctor's like, well, that's superstition. And the other doctor, and our doctor, shall we say, doctor, the real doctor, Doctor One, is like, well, no. But yes, it is superstition, but doesn't mean it's real. Like, if you really do believe it's a superstition, you'll have no issue crossing that line. And him and Donna were like, yeah, go on, cross it. And both of them don't. They won't cross that line. And there's another scene near to the end where the Doctor and Donna are back inside the TARDIS, and the Doctor's sitting there talking to himself, being like, I don't. I think I've just done something wrong there. Basically, like, I've gone to the edge of the universe, the very very edge where everything is in flux, everything is anything is possible, everything is possible, and that I've just put a superstition about the salt there and the consequences of that. And just before we get an answer, the Doctor moves on from it. Very much sort of the 10th Doctor, David Tennant style. He never used to give us answers. He used to kind of throw something in the air, foreshadow it, and be like, well, anyway. And then it would pop up in like the next few episodes or the next season, and then you'd be like, oh, that's what he was talking about. But I'm starting to get a feeling, I'm starting to get a sense that the events of the Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and eventually the Giggle next week, whatever happens in this time period is going to be what the standard of the universe, because I feel like after the Celestial Toymac is finished, I feel like the universe is going to basically correct itself, and this universe that we've got left is kind of not the remnants, but kind of the recurring narrative, the current narrative, the sort of sacred timeline, to kind of take a word from Loki, of what Doctor Who will be moving forwards with Ncuti and new Doctors and new stories. Because we already saw it at the very, very beginning, which really confused me. At the very beginning of this episode, we're at 1666. We meet Sir Isaac Newton, because of all people. The Doctor and Donna land in top of his tree while he's underneath the tree, he figures out gravity, apple falls on his head, and obviously the TARDIS hits the tree, a lot of apples fall down. He's like, what the hell? And then him and the Doctor, it's a really nice scene actually. It's kind of the calm before the storm, really. But we have this moment between the Doctor and Donna. Like, oh, what, I'm trying to recalibrate. I'm sorry, I crashed in your tree. What year is it? 1666. Doctor's like, oh well, stay away from London. And Doctor's like, hold on a second. Apple tree, man with apple in his hand, notepad, and they're like, oh my god, it's Isaac Newton. And I thought, oh great, I'd love a sort of story with Isaac Newton. Sadly, we don't really get that here. But then Donna makes a joke of like, of all people, and the Doctor's like, don't. And Donna's like, come on, of all people, who would appreciate the gravity of the situation. It was a terrible pun. And then we have a moment where they leave, and then Isaac Newton's like, oh, what was that word? Bividi? Bovidi? And I think the word is Medary, something like that. So it starts with an M, not gravity, Medary, whatever, right? And that's a recurring thing throughout this, is whenever they mention gravity, they don't say gravity, they say Mevody or whatever the word was. And even the Doctor says it. And don't get me wrong, I like the joke, I find it funny, but I'll be honest, this is my only gripe, if anything, of this episode, is the fact of me being somebody who loves science and who loves kind of conformity in a way when it comes to things that they love. That the whole idea of like, yeah, funny joke, but please go back to Isaac Newton and correct Mevody to gravity, please, because it's just going to angst me. Like, it wouldn't, but it's not going to bother me. It's just going to think that it's going to nitpick at me. So please, can we have it? Even if you do it at the very, very end of the Giggle, and that Ncuti goes off and goes, first things first, let's fix some things. And Ncuti goes off, meets Sir Isaac Newton, and goes, oh, by the way, it's gravity. It's not Mevody, Bevody, Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, whatever. Okay, cheers, see you later, bye. And then he goes off, and then Christmas special. If that's what they're going to do, that's fine with me. But please, let's not have this continuing thing of like, in this universe now, we call it Mivody or whatever. Like, please, turn it back to gravity. That's my only real gripe. But yeah, like I'm starting to think like whether this universe is going to be the new narrative. So we'll see what happens next week with the Giggle. But I really, really love this episode. And obviously you have the two villains, which we don't even know what kind of villains they are. who they are, what they are, where they're from. Um, all we know is that they can shapeshift and that they feed off, like they live up in deep space at the edge of the universe, the edge, the real edge, the nothingness of space, of the ever expanding universe. And they basically have fed off everything that they see and hear from us and all the other races in the universe of war and destruction and hate and lies, and that's why they're so evil. Um, it's very, very fascinating, very interesting indeed. And then obviously we find out what happened to the captain of the ship, and as to what happened to the people. Well, we don't really find out what happened to the people, but we found out what happened to the captain of the ship. Um, it's very much like The Thing. It does feel like Event Horizon meets The Thing, and I love those movies. So to me, that's perfect. I feel like there's something I'm missing. Oh, the body horror as well. There's a lot of body horror. Well, when I say body horror, I don't mean grotesque sort of like gore or anything like that. I just mean like limbs are getting longer. For example, like the doctor says, my arms are longer. And then you look down and you've got these huge arms and huge hands, just but David Tennant's skinny body. And then you've got Catherine Tate. She has the same issue, but her arms are a lot like thin, but it's thin long. It's strange, it's weird, and yeah, this episode is very much different, very, very, very different. Obviously, like I said, it's off the cusp. I only wrote down a few notes as I was going, so there's more likely I've missed things. Um, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I did. I had a lot of fun with this, and for me, I just liked how we managed to get the Doctor and Donna alone in a ship, and it's kind of like an out of body experience. It's kind of like these creatures, these enemies, these villains, these shapeshifters, whatever you want to call them, allowed the Doctor and Donna to not only reflect of who they are now, but what has happened over the 15 years. And as I mentioned at the beginning, where you had the fact of where the Donna was talking about, she knows that he doesn't know who he is, that he has this existential crisis of he has no idea who he is or where he's from, and how that bothers him. We got to have that little bit of revelation. And I didn't cry at this, surprisingly enough. I was just more so gripped because I didn't know what I was seeing. This is one of those episodes I'm gonna have to sit and watch multiple times. It's gonna be one that I'm gonna have to sit here and go, to what is going on. Listen to every bits of detail because it is crazy. But you do have these moments where they could really talk and just to have a conscious heart to heart, not just with each other but with themselves, where they could talk to themselves and but look, what's wrong, what is it, what's the problem, why are you doing this? um you know it's it's so different in a good way. And I really, really enjoyed it. Doctor Who, how can I explain it? For me, Doctor Who is on the mend. It's going back to something that is old but also is new. It's modern but it's classic, um, and I like that. I like a bit of mix and old, the older with the new. I like that. The nostalgia part of me really appreciates that. But this whole episode, Wild Blue Yonder, it is a strange one, very, very much of a strange one, and uh, heartbreaking. Like there was a moment I almost cried, but I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. That I just couldn't get the tears out. The tears wouldn't come because my brain was like, "You're on your own, mate. I don't know what we're seeing. I can't explain that, you know." Um, because there is a moment, obviously, as you guys and Beans know that you've gotten this far, you've obviously you've seen the episode and don't worry about spoilers. But you get that moment where the Doctor picks up, picks between which Donna is the correct Donna, and he believes he picks the right Donna, and then we realise no, he didn't. He didn't. It's not the right Donna, and Donna's like no, screaming like no, you've got the wrong one. It's me, Doctor, come back. And I'm literally sitting there going no, 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 like because the ship's blowing up, like the little robots press the button, the blank, the fake, the shapeshifter, whatever you want to call it, version of The Doctor is now burnt up. That's dead, so you're not going to worry about that version appearing anywhere. But now we've got the problem of fake Donna is now with the real Doctor, and the real Donna's stuck on the ship that's blowing up, and it's going to be a love Adric situation. And I'm like, no, you did it once with Adric. Please don't do that again to me and the fandom. We can't take it. And at the last minute, he realizes, no, you're not the real Donna. And luckily, gets rid of the blank, gets rid of the fake Donna, and brings on the real Donna. I'm like, I should have cried, but like I was just like, I can't, no, he's not going to do another Adric, please, no. Um, Even though I know Adric wasn't his fault, like he had no choice, but still, very much so. Please don't do that again to me and the fandom. Um, but yeah, whew, what a wild ride! And to finally, we managed to get to the very, very end, and we get to see Wilfred again, which is from actually listening to um, the Doctor Who Unleashed episode. The scene that we get to see at the very end with Wilfred is the final um, scene that Wilfred Bernard Cribbins did before he sadly passed away. Which Rusty Davies does say, like they did plan to do more of him. They wanted to do more with him. They wanted to do more scenes, but because of his age and his health, they couldn't. And then obviously, sadly, he passed away, which is a very much shame because again, I was a big fan of Bernard Cribbins, not even just for Doctor Who, but like in Carry On and all these other roles that he's done over the years. Like one of my favourite was when he was in Faulty Towers. That was great. That was a great role. I think he pretended to be an inspector. He was an inspector, but Faulty Towers, Basil Fawlty thought he was an inspector. I think I've got the right episode there, but I know what I can see. He's got a mustache and everything. Great episode. He was incredible talent. It's a shame that he's gone, but then again, he was 93, so he did live a good long life. Um, but yeah, that was his final season. It made that scene a lot more, um, a lot lovelier, a lot more nice. So obviously, I feel like we're going to see a little bit more of him in the next episode as well. Because obviously we've seen in the trailers where the Doctor is pushing Wilfred around in a wheelchair. So I'm sure that we're going to see a little bit more of him. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see what the giggle will be. I am, because the Doctor says when they land back after this whole sort of adventure's over, he lands back on Earth, and the Doctor's like, we're back on Earth. Maybe give or take a few days. Obviously, a few days. It's been more than a few days that have gone. We don't know how many yet. It looks like some time has passed. Not years. I would say potentially a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two. Um, Good old Wilfred, he said he would sit and wait for the Doctor to appear because Wilfred never lost faith in the Doctor. Um, yeah, it's it was a lovely little scene, and then obviously we get the whole plane coming over, crash landing, and people fighting each other, and big explosions, and Wilfred's like, I knew you'd come back to save us all because so much terrible things have happened. The world's gone mad. The whole world's gone mad. And then that's it. And then obviously, luckily, at the end of this episode, unlike the Star Beast where we got nothing, at the end of this episode we got a hint at we got like a little trailer of what the next episode's going to be, and we got to see Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker. He got a few lines in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what next week's going to be. And at the very, very end, we got to see Shutigawa in the TARDIS, wearing David Tennant's obviously outfit. So yeah, uh, I'm not ready for I'm not ready to say goodbye to David Tennant, so I'm not ready for the end. But I am at the same because I'm glad that this Doctor, that this face, that David Tennant's face, was able to come back and to reconcile the wrongs of his past, um, to sort of say goodbye to Donna. And I kind of wish that he had a chance to say basically apologise to Martha as well, because Martha didn't deserve anything that happened to her, to be honest. Um, but that's the topic for another day, and I'll get round to that. Trust me, when we get round to series 3, trust me, I'm going to be talking a lot about Martha and the Doctor, so don't you worry. But I hope maybe there's a chance because she works for Unit, so maybe she appears in the next episode. We don't know. Bonnie Langford comes back, so she's a classic companion. So why can't Martha Jones? We'll see. Um, but yeah, there's a lot to look forward to next week. I'm not looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to it. This episode was mad, crazy, bonkers. And next week's just looks just as insane. So, yeah, overall, my thoughts and feelings is I loved it. Doctor Who's on a good track. I'm incredibly confused. I do look forward to watching the commentary tomorrow on this episode. And I'll probably end up watching this episode again, maybe another 2, 3 times, just to really get to grips with it all. But you'll hear about that when I do my introduction for the giggle next Saturday. But until then, that's it. That's your lot, really. That's my thought and feelings of Wild Blue Yonder. Absolutely wonderful, brilliant, incredible, fantastic. Yeah, a lot of fun. Hell of a lot of fun. So if you liked it, if you didn't, let me know. I want to know your comments. You can let me know on Twitter at nerdstalgic_pod, or if you listen to this on YouTube, leave your comments down below. If you currently like the 60th anniversary so far, if you're liking the episodes, if you're not liking them, what did you like about the Wild Blue Yonder? Do you think they should have added this? Do you think they should have added that? Do you think they should have took things away? Maybe extended scenes? Anything and anything like that. Or if you just want to talk about Doctor Who, let me know on Twitter or on YouTube down below. And so thank you very, very much for listening to me ramble about Doctor Who. It's an absolute pleasure. You've been listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast. I've been your host, Luke the Human, and I'll catch you in the next one. Allons-y!